you could get in those days, I don't think they do them anymore, you could get like a temporary passport. You could go to the post office and get a cardboard passport. So I had a cardboard passport and £100 and a month in Europe sleeping on various train stations. It wasn't a really very good trip, to be honest, but you know, it was like my first taste of travelling. I worked at like the Radcliffe Infirmary in Oxford and the Oxford University Press, loads of kind of temp jobs during the day, and then in the evening I worked in a local pub, and at the weekends I worked at a local pub. And gradually saved up the money to buy a ticket to go to Africa. And I flew to South Africa, flew to Johannesburg via Lusaka, cheapest way of doing it in those days, on Zambian Air, which funnily enough doesn't exist anymore. Flew to Johannesburg with my rucksack, £800, 19 years old, all on my own, and had this incredible introduction to a completely different part of the world, a completely different culture, and I absolutely loved it. But of course when I was there, I sort of needed to try and make some money and support myself. I ended up living in a shared student house in Cape Town. I got a job as a waitress, which is a fairly standard thing to do when you're a teenager, and I was a waitress in this restaurant that still exists amazingly, called Blues in Camps Bay. I was, I think, the worst waitress they'd ever had, and I lasted a month before I was sacked. And then I was asked, then somebody else said, they knew I was really into wildlife and stuff, and you know, doing a safari would have been an amazing thing, but there was no way I was going to be able to afford it. And somebody had put me in touch with somebody else who was running a safari, and they were going to fly all their clients in light aircraft from South Africa through into Botswana and then finishing in Victoria Falls. And they needed someone to drive all the heavy equipment that couldn't go in the planes, do the overland trip. And they had one guy, and because this was the 80s in apartheid South Africa, crossing the borders with two blokes in a big truck full of equipment would have looked possibly like South African Army, and it would have been very, very difficult. So basically they wanted a decoy. They wanted, you know, a woman who would basically make it look not like an army trip, and possibly a woman who could cook on a bushfire. I'm like, I've never done that before, I grew up in Berkshire. Anyway, I got the job, I got the gig, and had this incredible month driving this huge truck through, you know, across the Kalahari Desert. And my first night in the bush, we were in a place called Moremi, just north of Gaborone in Botswana, and I had to be on lion watch, and because we were camping wild, and I had to sit on the bonnet of a Land Rover with a huge spotlight and shine the spotlight out, and there's eyes everywhere you look, and you don't know, you know, if you're me and you're from Berkshire and the biggest thing you've ever seen is a domestic cat, and you're shining this thing out and there's eyes in the bush everywhere you look, and you think, I don't know which one of those might be a lion, and you'd hear them at night, you know, this amazing ooh sound at night, and you just go, oh, where is it, and it would feel like it's just behind you. It was the most incredible experience. And then I came back to Cape Town, and I decided, having had this sort of extraordinary taste of Africa that wasn't sort of as tame and civilized, I suppose, as the cities in South Africa, I wanted to see more of that. And so I sold my car. I had a very old Beetle. I sold my Beetle, and I used it to buy a plane ticket, and I left. I hitched from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and I flew to Malawi and basically started a bit of an African adventure, but along the way did various funny things. So at one point I worked in a crocodile farm in Zambia, and became very, very good at hatching crocodiles, which was my main job. So although I'm not physically a mother, I like to feel that out there somewhere are some of my babies who are going to be quite big by now. But my job was basically, we'd have a crate of eggs, crocodile eggs, under lights, exactly the same way that you might incubate chicken eggs or something. We had them under lights. And my job every morning was to go and wiggle the crate, and then you'd listen. If you'd hear, that was a crocodile saying, you know what, I'm ready to come out, and you'd help them out. And then if you didn't get your finger away quickly enough, they'd latch onto your finger, and you'd have this little crocodile stapled to your finger. That was my formative career.